Okay, so as I've said, my name is Samuel Kadima, and I'm a technical mentor at Moringa School, where I teach DevOps. So if there is anyone here who is looking forward to join a DevOps course, you can consider Moringa School. They are part of our partners. So let us look at the agenda that we have for today, and then we'll be able to continue with the session. So okay, so on our agenda, we are going to have an icebreaker. We are going, and then after the icebreaker, we are going to have the session. And then after the session, which is going to be led by Martin, we are going to have the Q&A. So for icebreaker, I have a question here that you can raise your hand, and then I'll select you. I'll give you the chance to unmute, and then you can respond. So for this icebreaker, I hope you can see my screen. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So if you won 28 million Kenya shillings, and then your close uncle swallowed a razor blade, and the surgery costs 27.9 million shillings, what would you do? So anyone who would like to respond to that? Anyone? What would you do? Daisy, Chepleting? Anyone who would like to give it a try? Give us their view. What would you do in such a situation?
Me, I would not.
Yes, yes, Henry and then Emma. Henry, you're saying?
I would not, because let him die, manzi. Life must go on.
Okay. What about you, Emma?
It depends how close I am with the uncle.
Okay, if you're too close.
I think I might help him. I'm not sure, but 80% I might help him.
Okay, that is good. Is there anyone else who would like to give? Yes, Charity?
As for me, I think before even I won this, I don't get final operation, so I'll give what I can.
Okay, and that could be, since you have 28 million, you can give 27.9 million?
No, but I'll give some.
Okay. Okay, good. So I think we can proceed. So yeah, it's good to get your views. For those who would like to respond, you can also respond on the chat. Elsie says, book a ticket and disappear. Invest your money somewhere else. Okay, that is another view. So we can continue and welcome our speaker. So Martin, if you are in the room, the floor is yours. So Martin.
Samuel.
Yes.
I hope you unanisikia. So how are you?
I'm very fine.
Yes, so hi to the Nairobi DevOps community members. I hope mko wazuri. You had a wonderful weekend. And yes, my name is Martin Mwangi. I am a DevSecOps engineer at Safaricom. And I'm really, it's a pleasure to be here today to share about my journey and talk about DevSecOps. So I can go ahead and start, Samuel, and share my presentation.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
And it's on presenter mode.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I think we can go ahead and start. So the topic is security in DevSecOps. And well, I know we are all in this the community. It's DevOps, but it's always good to try to accommodate new things. So I want us to talk about security, which is very important. In any in software development, security is very paramount. It's paramount. So, well, I think I will start with the agenda here. And just a little bit. So the agenda, we'll talk about what DevSecOps 8 is. Then we'll go ahead and talk about why DevSecOps. Then we'll look into the benefits of this DevSecOps, the challenges, how to implement DevSecOps, and how to enforce security and compliance. So yes, so what's DevSecOps? I've given a brief explanation. So for DevSecOps is the culture of engineering practices that breaks down barriers and opens collaboration between development teams, security and operations in organizations using automation to focus on rapid, frequent delivery of software infrastructure and software in production. It encompasses intake to release of software and manages those flows, the flows predictably, transparently, and with minimal human intervention. So what we mean here is security. Initially, we used to have software developers, they do the software development bit, and then now after they finish their work, the app will be taken over by initially it could just be taken over by the operations team. But remember, when you just take an application, like you have an application, it's working, it can say quote unquote, it's working, and then you put it in production, and then you might find out that there are some things maybe you might have missed, or there are some security flaws that were not caught while the app was in development. And you have that application in production, which now those vulnerabilities can be used against you. Like someone can try and take advantage of the weaknesses in your application and it might be a very costly bit if you have an application that have vulnerabilities in production. So it was very important that we found a different ways of doing things so that we can be able to protect ourselves as an organization or in people who are creating these softwares, to make sure you don't find yourself in a situation where you have an application that has issues. And so that's where DevSecOps came about. And what DevSecOps does is, instead of having security as a segment by itself, it's incorporated in every stage of software development. So we talk talk about it like shifting security west, not west but left, where now you are, instead of having security at the end of this the development process, you have it at the beginning, so that you can have every person who is taking part in the development process, be it the developers, be it the testers, or even the people who put it, like the people, the operations guys, they are able to do their bit to ensure that security is taken care of from the moment you are doing your development work and the idea to when we have the pipelines, like you have to check when you commit the code, and even when it's being tested, security is also being enforced, like you do the security checks even at that time. And even when the application is in production, security is also part of that process. So you can, as you can see, now we are taking care of security, like everyone is responsible for taking care of the security, how secure our applications are. And so the goal of this is to incorporate, I think I've mentioned that. So in DevSecOps, when you're practicing DevSecOps, it provides a way to demonstrate quality and security improvements over the traditional way of developing software, like there is a software development life cycle. And we usually measure, we have metrics to measure this quality. So we can have the development metrics, where you measure the health of the development process and provide leading indicators of application stability. For example, the development frequency and deployment frequency and deployment success and failure. So let's say you have an application and you're trying to you want to put it in production. So you are able to measure how often this application, say you have the pipeline and the application either fails or it's able to go from the building phase to the testing, and eventually, if you build, when you build an artifact, it's deployed it's put in production. So you are able to see how often or the frequency of the successes and failures. And the goal eventually is to make sure that the more you are doing this and you are getting some lessons. Let's say you fail the first time, you get some lessons from that failure, and you get some data and some information that is very helpful to make sure that going forward, you are able to now correct the mistakes that were there and able to do better next time. So that's the first metric we have to take care of. And the deployment metrics, they help us improve as we go forward. We have lead time metrics, which measure the capacity of an organization to respond to change and deliver business value. So what happens? These metrics, the lead time metrics, measure the capacity of an organization. Sorry, there's some confusion here, kidogo. Samuel.
Yes, are you still presenting the slide on what is DevSecOps?
It's still on DevSecOps.
Yeah, the definition. Now we can see why DevSecOps.
Okay, I think I did a mistake somewhere while editing the slide. Oh, but okay, I think I can explain. Let me just go back a little bit. We are still on the metrics. Now we are on the, what is DevSecOps, right?
Yeah.
So I will just like highlight those three metrics again. I think I did a mistake while doing the editing. That's why you can't see that page. My apologies for that. Maybe I can correct that later and share the slide. So so back to the metrics, like we have the deployment metrics, the lead time metrics, and the mean time to repair metrics, which the last one, the mean time to repair metrics, it's one where you measure how quickly you're able to remediate a situation. Let's say you encounter an issue, and now that metric is supposed to check how often or how quickly you are able to fix that issue and put that the app, let's say the feature that was affected, we are able to redeploy the app so that it can be able to deliver value at to the customers. And so I think let me just go to the next slide. So why the DevSecOps? So one thing is, as I've mentioned earlier, the issues we used to encounter before led us to be able to rethink of how development should be done, and even the deployment process should be done, so that you don't have to wait until the end, where like the security people have to check on the app, and now you have to have a back and forth. Let me give you a scenario here. We are creating a feature, and then you start and you're able to, you want to deploy, let's say, a specific feature to add it to a let's say a website. And then you have to wait after everything has been done, even the testers have done their job. You have to wait for the security people to do the security assessments, and then now they can give their, maybe their go ahead if the everything is okay. But remember, now the developers are still developing, so you find there's like a queue of things that needs a security team to take care of, which reduces the like efficiency, and it's like time wastage, and it can be costly, because now you have things that have already been developed that cannot go into production because they have to wait until the for an approval from security team. Well, you see how what kind of a bottleneck we have when we have such a kind of a development process. So when you have this new culture of DevSecOps, we have a pipeline that is taking code and assessing it from the very beginning, so that as soon as that pipeline runs to the end, that feature can be deployed, and you can go to the as in, without even a human intervention, and you're able to deliver more features or do more iterations much faster without needing any human or minimal human intervention. So why DevSecOps? It's to be able to integrate the operations of the work of the developers, the operations team, and the security team to have a more efficient process and be able to deliver applications more faster and even deliver more value to the customer. That's why I think DevSecOps is really important for the future of software development. We can go to let's look at the benefits now. So when we have DevSecOps, I hope is there any questions up to that point? Oh, bado tunasikizana?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So if there is no question, we can go to the benefits of DevSecOps. And the first one, it's you're able to identify and mitigate the security vulnerabilities early enough. So if there's an issue with your code, you are able to, the assessments, they don't just start, they start actually in your IDE, like when you are developing. There are plugins that you can have installed on your IDE that constantly monitor or assess the code you have, and they're able to tell you if there's an issue with your code. They'll be able to point that out so that you can be able to fix that as early as possible. And those security checks go on in every stage, whether it's the testing bit, whether when it's as soon as maybe you push your code to GitHub source code repository, and say you push that code to a source code repository, and you have a pipeline, so it will continue checking for any vulnerabilities, and if there is anything found that is that's not okay, it's reported early enough so that it can be fixed. And this ensures that teams are able to do more within like a much shorter period. Number two, we have improved collaboration and communication. So when this process is happening, you can see that you need developers to be able to communicate with their teams from different areas. You have the developers, you have the security team, and you have the operations team. They need to be in constant communication so that they're able to deliver more and do a better job. So DevSecOps encourages people to, or for it to work, people need to communicate and they need to collaborate more. So that's something else that is a huge benefit to the organization, because like in the bigger picture, when you have people who are, you have those lead teams communicating more, you are able to get more value from their work. So the other one is continuous security monitoring. So as I've mentioned, the security, it's enforced in every bit of the software development. So every time you are writing code, the code is monitored and there's something we call software, the analysis of the code, and it happens continuously throughout the process. So that has to be a good benefit. And we have increased automation and efficiency. Now that bit on automation and efficiency, we can refer to again to our pipeline, the pipelines we use to in DevOps, in DevSecOps, sorry. And when you have these pipelines running, whenever, let's say, the code is committed, once you have the code is committed, you don't need a human to do anything at all. That intervention is removed, which at times can slow down things. So when you have a pipeline, it will run, do the job, and run the job, and then when it's done, it can just still do it again when, like, let's say another commit has been done, and you're able to now do more things, like without having to require any intervention from a human being, which now improves on efficiency. So number 5, another advantage, it's on rapid and cost-effective software delivery. So as you can see, with automation, you're able to do more. So software is delivered much quicker, and it's able to now start, like, because you don't need human intervention, so you're able to save cost on that. And because you're able to deliver much faster, you're able to start delivering value to your customers on a much larger scale. Another benefit is on enhanced risk management. So when on the issue of risk management, it's if there's any issue that would arise when during this process, let's say the software development process, it's much easier to manage it because the issues are identified early, and you get reports on where the issues are and how to fix them. There are even suggestions on how if an issue is identified, you're able to have the analysis that can be used to help in assessing the risk and be able to sort it early enough. And also, I think that the last one, it's on regulatory compliance. So you see some of these things, you can think of the financial services, applications that offer financial services. They have to be compliant to specific things, like there are some set out ground rules on how something that is delivering something that is very sensitive, how they should be able to handle. Let's say they should be able to do data protection. There's also issues to do with licensing. All those things, the DevSecOps will be able to help you avoid any issue that would arise that are related to regulatory compliance. So I think we can go to the challenges. So anything that is good, when you're trying something new, whether it's good or bad, you'll encounter some challenges. And especially when something is new, people will try to push it back. because people don't just accept changes when they happen. Some teams can be very reserved on, like, when it comes to change. So you find that when you're in DevSecOps, when you're trying to introduce people to it, people need to shift the way they think, the way they approach things, the way they, maybe the way they work in their teams. They need to have a cultural shift. And in an organization, moving away from the way people work, let's say the way people work in their teams, you see, we have the developers in their teams, we have the security guys in their teams, we have the operations team in their the operations guys in their teams. People are used to working together in a certain way. And so when you're trying to introduce this new thing, which is DevSecOps, people have to have that cultural shift. And it's not easy to convince those people to move away from working in those siloed teams, like those groups, the way they work, they share things only within themselves. And now they need to move from that and now be able to share among with information with other teams. That's a bit of a difficult thing. And it's one of the things that has slowed down the adoption of DevSecOps in many organizations. So the other challenges on skills and expertise. On this, you find that in the market right now, there are enough people who are experienced and they understand issues to do with how to implement or to work or to help a company transition and to start having this culture of DevSecOps. And one thing is because there are a lot of skills needed, you need to understand things to do with security. You need to understand probably something about development, and maybe even on the other side, something to do with operations. So those are like 3 skills that are you might need a lot of learning to get those skills. So you don't find that skill or people who are experienced in that area, they are very limited right now. So that's a challenge. And there's also security integration. So on this bit, when you're dealing with issues to do with security, you need to have tools that are able to do the scanning. If you need to scan the code and do the analysis, so you need to know how to integrate these tools properly. Because now if you do a mistake, if you are to do it and do something wrong, then you end up having an application in production that has not been the analysis has not been done properly, which now can result in a lot of losses. And that's a very it's a very risky bit on security. So that has to be done right. And now and it's something that people need to learn a lot and be able to be very careful when they are practicing that bit of integration. There's also an issue, another challenge on tool chain integration. And this has to be some of these tools, when they are being used, most of them, especially because the field is relatively new, you find that there are not enough tools, and the ones you find, some of them are open source. And so you might have to customize them to be able to fit your need, depending on what your organization, what the the organization wants. So you might have to, let's say you have an open source plugin that is supposed to achieve a specific thing. You need to do some customization to that plugin. And now you see these things, they're not straightforward. You can test it and probably it won't even be able to deliver. As well, if you had, like, in comparison to if you had an application that has been tested and you're sure of what it's supposed to do. So this integration of the tool chain, it can be a problem. It's usually a challenge to many DevSecOps teams. The other challenge is on continuous monitoring. So DevSecOps emphasis on continuous monitoring of application and infrastructure to identify and respond to security threats in real time. So, but implementing these monitoring solutions can be quite a challenge, especially because some of these solutions are quite expensive to acquire, and they cause like a huge headache to companies. I think I can give one example. I know, like, when you try, when you're using it, it will deliver. Yes, it will deliver, but it's quite expensive. It's called Dynatrace. It's for monitoring, and as much as it does the job, it has that huge setback on the cost of acquiring licenses and all that. So there's that. And then we have another challenge on compliance and governance. So meeting regulatory and compliance requirements is a huge challenge, especially because organizations need to ensure security control are in place. Like, you see, when you're dealing, for example, again, I had mentioned about more financial services, you need to comply with, you have to deal with, for example, CBK. So the issues to do with compliance and governance can be a huge headache to an organization trying to implement DevSecOps, because you can't just have things that haven't, like, if you haven't complied properly, then eventually it will hurt the company in the long run. So that's a problem. And then, of course, there is one on communication and collaboration. So as I had mentioned about teams that usually comfortable working in those siloed teams, like if it's the developers and the security team, they are only comfortable talking within their teams. That's a problem, because now if people are not comfortable sharing with other teams, which now helps in people be able to deliver, without them sharing and communicating and collaborating, DevSecOps becomes a problem now, because it can't work properly without the collaboration. The last one, it will be on resistance to change. So this is on the push button. Like, people will try as much as possible to try and remain the way they are comfortable working. So they have the push butts on these new changes. And yes, so that's I would say that those are some of the challenges. And I can go to how we implement security in DevOps. Like this is where we do the implementation. So there's the number one. Just a bit. Okay, so what DevSecOps aims to achieve is to find the right balance of security activities must be selected to support each specific project and product. A clear sign of risk is Samuel.
Yes.
Then I've talked too much. And I don't know, again, I think I've confused something. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's okay. So like how we implement, I can go back to how we implement DevSecOps. The most important bit of on how we implement it, it's we do code analysis. So code analysis, we focus on how to deliver code in small chunks so that vulnerabilities can be identified quickly before they're able to cause any harm or have any impact in production. So we have different ways on how so there are 6 important components of the DevSecOps approach. We have the code analysis, the change management, compliance monitoring, threat investigation, vulnerability assessment, and security training. Some of these they are a bit self-explanatory, but the one I would want to focus on today, it's on the code analysis, because that's the most one that is very important. So I will move to the source code analysis bit. So what is source code analysis and how it's done? So source code code analysis, it's to continuously monitor and check if your code has any issues, and you're trying to identify if there are any vulnerabilities, there are any functional errors that could, if deployed, would cause an issue to the application. So if, for example, you have these weaknesses in an application and it's deployed, of course, this would result in huge losses, and huge losses monetarily wise. You might end up losing money, and it would be also an issue if you had an issue, you had an application deployed, and an issue is detected, so you might have to take it down so that the issue can be fixed, which now can be a pain to the customers, and you don't want anything that can affect your customers or impact the trust they have in your products. So you have to be able to protect such things from happening, to prevent them from happening. So if let me go to the next slide. So we have different types of code analysis. So one of them, it's called static code analysis. So what this is, it's analyzing the code. Well, it's at least, like this code has not been executed. It's just going through the code, the repository, the code you have pushed to a source code repository, and it analyzes the code, of course, without executing the program, to check if there are any potential vulnerabilities, bugs, and security threats. So static code analysis identifies patterns in the code and detects possible security threats and issues in the quality of the code. This helps in revealing any issues in the early stages of development, which can be rectified during development stage, allowing developers to develop strong code bases. Remember, when we have tools and plugins that can be added to IDEs to be able to continuously monitor your code. So that's one of the code analysis types. So we have another one on dynamic code analysis. What this involves, it executes code it kind of simulates what an attacker would do if the app is in production. You see now, this one doesn't even check the code, doesn't interact with the code at all. It's like you have an application, let's say in development environment, because it's not really advisable to have these analysis being done in production, because it can end up changing the application, and that could be a problem. So if you have an application and it's in development environment, so you're able to simulate what an attacker would do. Let's say, for example, you have an application, it's set up, and then you're able to simulate what an attacker, if an attacker can be able to do SQL injection in the app and succeed or fail. So if you have this kind of analysis, it helps you detect if there are any issues that could eventually cause a problem to the application, and they're able to, the developers are given those reports so that they can fix those issues early enough to protect the issues that could arise if those weaknesses can end up in production. Now we have the third one, which is on interactive application security testing. Now this one, it automatically identifies, it focuses on automatically identifying and diagnosing software vulnerabilities in applications and APIs. And this usually happens in development and test, in the test phases. So those are the three code analysis. We can go to the how now the security and compliance is enforced. So it's more of now trying to explain what we had in the previous, this previous slide. So we have three kinds of tests that are usually performed in this application. One of them, it's called dynamic application security testing. So this is what I had referred to on this slide. It's related to the second code analysis. And so this it's sort of referred to as black box testing methodology that tests your running application for security vulnerabilities. Again, this test, it has the application that is trying to run this test has no prior interaction with the application. That's why it's being called black box testing. It's like I think in people who are very familiar with security and probably ethical hacking, they would know about black box or black box. Is it hacking or something like that? So they can just try to find vulnerability without having any prior interaction with the application. And so you don't have any prior knowledge with the app. You just go there and try to find if there is any weakness that can be used to maybe access the app or access the information on the application. So we also have static application testing, security testing, SAST. So what this does, it's also now testing the code or analyzing the code while it's at rest. And as soon as it finds any issue with the code, it will create a report showing the kind of the number of the issues, the vulnerabilities that are there, and that report will also show the kind of the priority, how you need to prioritize these issues, so that maybe if an issue is it's like ranked a bit higher, you're able to know which issues you should prioritize when you're fixing them. So that the developers are able to focus on the issues that are much more serious, and they're able to now fit, and so that the application can be back into a working state, and you don't have to inconvenience the customers for a long time. So we have there are 3 types of policies or static scans, sorry, and I think, yes, so one of the scans, the static scans, it's called policy scan, and it's part of the static application security testing. So where it runs only on the master branch. And here, when we say of the master branch, we are talking of the branch that is going to be used for deploying your code in production. So if you're using the master or main, whichever you are using, that's the one where the policy scan is run. And then you have the scan for the one called pipeline scan. Now that one runs on every other branch apart from the master branch. And we have another one called sandbox scan, which is usually now run. You can run it on your IDE, which now test your, let's say, the feature branches you have. You're able to test them to see if there are any issues with the code you have. The third way of enforcing the security and compliance is software composition analysis. And what happens here, you are able to, this test, it's for checking for any issues with, let's say, the open source tools you have in you're using in your project, to see if there are any, let's say you have plugins, or not even plugins, packages. You might be using a package that is out of date, or maybe they have issues that have been detected. So you are able to, this software composition analysis will help you identify those issues. And it usually uses the OWASP Open Web Application Security Projects top 10 list. Those security lists, they have, I think I will share a link on those top 10 lists so that you can check them out. But that's basically what software composition analysis does. It checks if you have any packages that have issues, and it's able to identify them for you so that they can be fixed early enough, before the code can go to production. So I think we can go to the last, I think near the last one. So we have these tools that certainly just a few of them. There are many more out there, but these basically some of them. We have one called Veracode, another one which is used especially for those SCA tests, the SAST and DUST. And one thing about this tool, it's mostly only available to enterprises, so you don't have like a freemium where you can be able to test it out, but it's a very good tool. We have SonarCube. It's mainly used for quality assurance, like it checks if your code is okay, like you don't have repeated codes, you don't have issues with variables and all that. So it's able to check if your code is written well. There's another tool called JFrog, which is used to, one of the things it does is scanning your artifact. Let's say if you have a Docker image, it's able to, it helps with scanning those images to ensure that they are safe. We have Dynatrace, which is one for monitoring. I think I had mentioned it before. There's Chekhov, which is used in for people who are familiar with infrastructure as code. Chekhov is used for scanning those the infrastructure as code. And we have one on Mozilla SOps. So that tool is used for storing your secrets. It's a platform that is used for interacting with your encrypted, let's say, certificates and all that, the ones that you use in anything, like, let's say you have some secrets and some passwords or certificates that are encrypted. So SOps, Mozilla SOps is used to help with that, so that you're able to manage and use your secrets much more safely. So I think I would say that would be the end of my presentation, which was more on theory. And I don't know if maybe going forward, if we have some other time, I can maybe now have some demos on how these tools are used and how maybe they can be set up and be used to do the security scanning. So these are some of the links I have. Maybe I can share them, you can check them out. Yeah, but that's basically it from me. I don't know if there is any questions or comments. I can't see the chat. Maybe you can, Samuel, maybe you can help me.
Okay, so we have some people raising hands. So maybe Charity, you can go first, then Tony.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the session. So I have a question. So can you maybe explain maybe a situation where there was an incident and how you respond and handle in the process? In the process, in context of DevSecOps, maybe.
Pardon?
I'm saying,
Yeah.
you can hear me, Sahizi.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, can you maybe explain incident response and handling processes, as in certain incidents in context of DevSecOps?
Okay.
Yeah.
So in context of this DevSecOps, so what happens? You have an application,
Okay.
and you have a pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes the code and analyzes it. If it identifies there an issue, let's say you have used some secrets are exposed, or there are some vulnerabilities, what happens is that code cannot go ahead and put in any production servers or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
What happens now? There are some analysis reports generated, and they are given, or developers can be able to access them, and they are given the instructions on how they're supposed to fix those issues, so that now the process can go forward. But up until those issues have been fixed, now any code that is related to or has issues cannot go ahead. You see, like you understand the concept of having these pipelines.
Yeah.
If something fails, you cannot go forward. It's like it stops at that moment where you identify an issue, and now the developers are given an opportunity to fix the issues, and then after that, after the issues have been fixed, you will check again if the code is fine. If it's fine, now the code can go ahead and it's able to be deployed and put in production.
Okay, maybe another question on that.
Yeah.
Now there's timeline for the system. Then
Yes.
how do you like handle that during incidents response? Because there's timeline, the system is needed, and there's an incident which has happened. Then also, how do you like collaborate three teams? There's development, operation, and security team in that process.
I think when such things happen,
Okay.
it's very important that you prioritize, know what's more important. You may think having an application, yes, there's some timelines and you need to have it working and people may be using it. But on the other side, you need to think of what's being traded off. There's if it's a company, there's the reputation bit.
Yeah.
Because the cost of having that app in production, with those issues, the cost would be much higher than just saying, yes, we can take our time. Yes, maybe it will be a bit late, but we need to take time, make sure that to make sure that whatever we are putting out there, it's safe. Because once something is there, you don't know who can take advantage of it.
Yeah, sure.
So you have to think of what's more important to you. And I think one, there's the reputation, and you have to protect you have issues with data compliance. If you are to have something that can cause leakages out there, you see that will be more a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Tony.
Hello, can you hear me, Martin?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, thanks for the session. And I have a bunch of questions. One of them is kind of related to what the previous person was asking, and it's I just wanted to know, have you ever like had an experience yourself where in an application, whether it's like a small application that you're doing by yourself or a company thing. I don't know if you're allowed to speak on company projects, but have you ever had a situation where you're developing it, or it's an application that's developed, you've done all the processes, the DevOps process and everything, but you've had an incident with like a security breach or something like that? Something like that.
I wouldn't. Okay, I can't talk on the company bit.
Yeah.
But on my personal side, also it's not something that we experienced, but I can talk on what is expected. What you're getting from like having these things, these tests being done, it's something might end up in production. Those like you might find like you have an app that has issues and it's in production. It can happen, but what you are expected to gain from it is you learn from it. Like if it happens once, you get to have the lessons from that, those mistakes, because of course if something ended up in production, it means there's a reason why it was missed in those tests, like during all those processes, right?
Yeah.
So that feedback is what now you use to improve your processes in the future, so that you can identify this is probably why this bug was not identified early enough, and you're able now to use that to improve on that in the future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Okay, good.
What's the next one?
Yeah, and I think I'm asking this because like sometimes, I don't know, as a developer, someone tells you like you're introduced to this and it's like you might have the point that do I really have to add the extra steps? Like, is it that important if I've never, like, kama haijanifanyikia, why is it so important to do this whole security process? But I get it. It's something that can happen, and if it happens to you, it's just a place to learn from. Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is, you'll never know like when it can happen. You never know. These things you just have to protect yourself to make sure, like, to reduce the possibility of something like that happening, because you don't know when it can happen. Yes.
Okay. So my second question is, I think when you're talking about code analysis, you said something about like one of the methods being like someone simulating an attacker and trying to get loopholes in the application and everything like that. wanted to know,
Yeah.
is there a way that can be done automatically, like without a human doing that? Like maybe it's a tool doing that, trying to
Actually,
exploit. Hmm?
actually,
Yeah.
what I was referring to, it's an automated tool. It's an automated
okay.
tool that is used to do that. It's not like someone who is doing it, because the process of having this, of course, DevSecOps is there to make things to remove those the manual bit of doing things. So we have tools that are able to do that automatically for you without even needing any human interaction. I'll share a link. There's a tool called Veracode. You can check it out. I'll share the link. It does that. It's able to simulate those attacks to check if the app is okay. And now they can give a report. It can give a report like if there's an issue with the app, like let's say like try to do to check some vulnerability or some loopholes in the application, and they were able to identify something. Now you are able to be identified, to be notified as a developer, so that can be fixed early enough. Remember, like it's advisable to not try this in production, really, but you try it in maybe a development environment. Because remember, if you try something like this in production, and some of these tests like can actually change the application, the way the application functions, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So so that's why it's but the tools are there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the last one I can ask is you on like a culture of processes that an organization might have. When you're introducing this DevSecOps approach, and you're trying to add more security to like the initial development processes and all these processes that are happening, how it's done practically, is it that as before there would be a security team that would handle all the incidents, and now it's like every team, if like a product was supposed to be created, in that team that is creating a product there's a security person? So is it like it changes the teams, and now each team should have like a security person who's handling this aspect of it, or it can still work with the process that there's a separate security team, and even though the development is happening, they communicate with them? Yeah,
So initially, let's even think when we had like the DevOps. DevOps didn't involve the security bit of testing, right? That analysis was not done as part of the DevOps pipeline. So you'd find that the security were doing things, the ability, like it's a separate team. But right now, what you have is you have someone who understands things to do with security. So when they are setting up these pipelines, you have everything being checked on that pipeline. So that those stages for the SAST and SCA, they are part of that pipeline. So the code, once it's committed, it will go through all the stages, like the code is there's the building phase, the testing, and then it will go ahead and check there is those stages for the SAST and the SCA, where it's checking the code if the code passes the security bits. Now, if it passes, then it will go ahead and maybe it will build an artifact like a Docker image, for example. And then even that Docker image itself will be scanned again, because you can have the image and then itself, the image itself has the issues, they have some vulnerabilities. It will also be scanned. And then now when that passes, now the image now will be pushed to a registry. I don't know if that gives answers your question.
Okay, yeah. I mean, part of it is done. What you're saying, part of it is done automatically by the scanners. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are given like they are able to get those, like if there are any issues, of course now you have those reports where now developers can use to fix the issues.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. I'm seeing that 2 questions in the chat. I don't know if Samuel, you will take those 2, or you'll ask him those 2 questions.
Okay. So I can see here Muride Gakuru saying, quote from a certain author, if it can happen, it definitely will. Yeah, and then Charity Wamboi, hello again. So a quick one, maybe what does it take to get in DevSecOps? Does one need to be a programmer or just understanding the programming context? Or rather, which carry more weights, development or security? So, yes, Martin?
So, it's very important that at least you understand a bit of programming, because now you see you need to at least understand what you are working with. Huwezi kuja, you don't know the coding bit, and you are expected to work with code that is now like, you see, it's a bit difficult, but you don't need like to be the best developer out there. Just being able to understand the programming, because at some point you'll probably be able, you have to work with scripting, so you need a bit of those skills. Also on security, I wouldn't say like I'm the most, like I'm someone who really has done security that much, but just understanding what security is and how to implement to go about different things in security, it's important, but you don't need to be like a cyber security expert. You just need to understand a few things. I don't know, is it Charity?
Yes.
Yes, so you just need to understand a bit of those 2 things to be able to maybe start off a career as a DevSecOps.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there is another question here. Is code analysis similar to pen tests? What is the roadmap to become a DevSecOps, briefly?
I think pen test, so that's penetration testing, right? I think that's penetration testing. So I think those are 2 different things. That's like I think those are the different things, because here when you're talking about code analysis, you are trying to just go through the code and try to see if there are any vulnerabilities and generate reports so that they can help the developers probably improve on what they have. But on pen test, I think that's where now you're trying, maybe pen test can be more related with the dynamic, the other testing I was talking, the dust. It's more on that end, I think. And on the roadmap, maybe I can share that in the group, if that's okay.
Okay, so Samson, that was the question. A question from Samson. Samson, do you feel answered?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let's
Yeah,
hear
thanks.
from also.
Thanks for
okay.
for sharing and for the class, for the presentation.
Okay. So there is another question here from Ian. In DevSecOps, what have you used or know that can help in zero-day attacks and compliance?
Zero-day attacks. So these are attacks that I identified when the product is already in production. Those are things I think at times it's hard to like 100% prevent such things, like 100%. Something can just go wrong somewhere, but the tools like the ones I had mentioned, they do help to make sure like you don't get to the 0 day, like a vulnerability is not identified or it doesn't get there, it doesn't get to production, because the moment it gets there and then it's identified, now you have the 0 day attack. So I honestly can't, I don't think I can really give a definitive answer to that. And also, what's the name of who had asked that question?
Ian.
Ian. Yeah, so Ian.
Hello, yes.
Oh, yes, hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't think I can give like a really good answer to that question, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure like if I come across like anything that can help in the future, I'll be able to, I will share it in our community.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I help on that maybe?
Okay.
For 0 days attacks and vulnerability. So what I know, it's good now the system is on production, it's up and running. So it's good to keep on doing the VA vulnerability assessment and VAPT, because there are attacks which keeps on coming. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for helping.
So that was our last question from the chat. Do we have any other question? Maybe one last question? So if there is no other question, Elizabeth says, thank you for the session. I'm taking security for granted because nothing major has happened, but now this is a challenge. So I think there are no other questions, Martin.
Okay, so Samuel.
Yes.
Let me say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the little I know about DevSecOps. I'm actually a student too. In this, I haven't done it for long, just a couple of months. So giving me this opportunity to be able to be here and share what I've been learning and what I've been practicing, it's an honor. And I want to say thank you to everyone who was in this session for taking your time. See you around in the community in the future.
Okay, thank you too.
Yes.
for teaching us. We've learned a lot. So for those who are interested in maybe pursuing a career in DevOps, I said you can. We've partnered with Moringa School. They're the ones providing us the space that we use for physical events. So you can consider them as a school. I also teach DevOps at Moringa School. You can consider joining Moringa School if you are new to the field, And then probably from there, you'll find your path, whether you'll rest in DevSecOps or any other path that you'll be interested in. So I think that is it. And thank you guys for joining. I'll be sharing the recording before you go. So I just have one last thing. Let me just share this in a second. Before you go. So we have a community that for those who are not from the community. So we have our community on LinkedIn, and you also have our WhatsApp channel, so you can find us there. And I'll be sharing the links in the chat. So let me share the link in the chat for the community for LinkedIn, so that if you're not on our LinkedIn group, you can join it, and also share the WhatsApp group. So here is the LinkedIn on the chat. You can check the chat section. There is the LinkedIn, and then the WhatsApp link. For those who are not on our WhatsApp group, you can join through the following link. So let me share that too. So there it is. So the other thing that we have is a YouTube channel. So the Nairobi DevOps Community YouTube channel. And on the YouTube channel is where we post all the recordings. So here is the YouTube channel. So you can subscribe so that you're reminded when we post things. So for the physical sessions that we've had, we've not recorded, but we are planning to see how either we can record, and also for those that we've already done, how we can have online sessions of the physical ones, the same workshops, and then record them so that everyone can access. So you can join us in running workshops if you think you can speak. The platform is open for anyone who is interested in speaking. If you want to help us in finding speakers as well, you're welcome to do that. And you can also give us feedback. So you can do that on our community channel. You can reach out to me. I'm the one who posts the daily polls. And you can also share ideas on how we can make the community better. You can share our posts when we post them, especially for the events that we share. And you can, we also need volunteers on different activities. So if you think you can volunteer in anything, just reach out to me, or you can reach out to Mamun here, Mamun Buenakombo. It's also in the Slack channel. And we also have our programs manager here. I think she's in the meeting. Let me see. We have Marceline Mochama. So if you want to speak, you can also reach out to Marceline Mochama, and she'll be able to help you. So I think that is it. Use those links to join the community, and from the community, you'll be able to get more updates. And thank you for joining the session. See you in the next one.